Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so the website, analysisonchain.co.uk. This is where it all starts. This is kind of like our hub of information. And on our homepage, if you scroll down, you'll see, plenty of information. You've got me and the team. It's only a small team. We've got another researcher who's sort of on trial with us at the moment. Got a bit of a NFT collection. But we've got our schedules available as well. Now we've got an example of the template that we use. So if anyone's listening to this, you can head to analysisonchain.co.uk and you can look at an actual example that we used. And actually we was able to predict on this particular project, which was one on the Binance Smart Chain called Horde, which was it was kind of like a node project. And the unique selling point was that the market price was flat all the time at around $100, and was able to analyze that in such a way that, was able to predict when it was going to fail. And it was within, a week or two of that actually happening. So we'll go through this in just a second. But we've gone through, a bunch of different projects, here and there's a bunch more in the VIP section as well. And we typically do 2 educational sessions per week, looking at some of these projects. And we look at everything from like NFTs to DeFi to blockchains, Web3 innovations, like Nillion, for example. That's kind of like an encryption service that's not strictly Web3, but it can be applied in Web3. So we tend to look at all of that. And I think the format that you can see here kind of helps for this as well. By the way, if I was to just skip through some of these pages here and go to page 14 of the report, no, not page 14, just a little bit before that, actually, you can see that we're able to provide a score here, which is 44.24. This is extreme risk. And the reason why this one was extreme risk is because you can see lots of ones, anonymous teams. There's no sort of information available about the teams at all. There was no liquidity locks. What else have we got? There's unverified contracts. There's proximity contracts happening, which means the contracts can change into an attack contract at any time, but it does give great flexibility for the developers. There's no real way of confirming if there's any buy or sell tax maximums or anything like that. So even the token supply, it might not have been fixed. They say it was, but because it's not verified, you can't read into it. And so worst case scenario is that they could just mint a load of tokens and dump the price. So we'll go through all this. I think we can use Coinos as an example in just a second, and I'll talk about some of these questions. But the example is here on the homepage, so feel free, anyone, to just go and have a look at this.
Very cool.
If I go to the VIP section, okay, what our members can get information on is of the projects that we record. And this table that you can see right now which is kind of like a leaderboard for blockchains, decentralized finance, and NFTs, and then Web3 projects. This is only available for our VIP members, but essentially from that score, we're able to sort of predict where we feel a project should be. And I just want to highlight something really important here, is that we've got a color scheme, and this amber color is heightened risk, and then down here at the bottom you can see some reds, which is extreme risk, right?
Yeah.
Anything below 70% is heightened risk. But I just want to call out one detail that is really important here. At the top, we actually have Coinos, the blockchain, 91%. Okay, so that's not for this podcast right now. That is our objective analysis, based on all the information that we had available to us. That's the score that came through. Okay, so that's that. We took no payment from the team or anything, but that's the score. Okay, so I just want to be clear about that.
Cool.
Normal, it says here in the description, this is a normal risk, asterisk. Okay, but we have a definition here that normal, you may still lose all of your capital, and that's because this is Web3, this is crypto, this is DeFi, this is NFTs, this is blockchains. Normal traditional businesses can fail. In fact, they do fail more than they succeed, to the rate of about 60 to 70%, I think. And all of that is exaggerated in this space. So when I'm saying normal, I'm comparing that to other high-risk projects that are higher in risk compared to even a traditional business, let's say.
Right.
So, and yeah, it kind of just calls that out even more here. You know, it is a very risky space that we're in. But I feel as though it's beneficial to be able to benchmark some projects against one another, just so you can get a rough feel. And obviously the detail is in some of the reports. Now, if I scroll down, our members have access to all of our latest videos, all of our different assessments. It's all here, right? And you'll see lots of percentages and all of that. And I've just pulled up the Coinos one, which is over here, and I've actually opened it up already. So let's just go through, if it's okay with you.
Absolutely.
The couple of the key points that we do talk about. And by the way, one disclaimer that we have is that obviously this is only as accurate as we see it at the time of research. This was done back in the start of November 2022, 5th of November. And I think we had our spaces, if you remember, we had the Coinos spaces, I think a little bit after that point as well. So some of that info has also fallen into here, but projects can change, whether it's blockchain, whether it's smart contracts or whatever, it can change, right?
Absolutely.
So I guess a couple of key points here for me is we've got an executive summary, but that's really just to give an overview. We're looking at, first thing we're looking at is the team and the repository. And the reason why we're looking at that is because we need, as somebody researching a project, and if you're a potential investor or a contributor, I personally think the team is one of the most important aspects to any project, because let me tell you, DeFi is not decentralized. In fact, most of the projects, with the exception of a handful of projects, is actually very centralized.
Sure.
So we go into detail about the team. We'll start off with the team. We'll look into all of the people on the team that we can find, and even if team members say that they're doxed or publicly visible, and you can see their pretty faces on a website, we'll go into the detail of reverse image searching. We've looked at graduation papers from universities just to check that they're actually qualified for what they've said they're qualified for. We've got some stories there, I can tell you, but
yeah,
you come across from time to time, actually it's more regular than that, you come across founders and team members who clearly are very experienced and are experts in their field, right? And
sure.
that's okay. We're happy with that, right? Unfortunately, because it's the space that we're in, we also see teams who say they are very experienced, but we've not seen any evidence of that. Now, you have to say that we can't, just because we can't find it doesn't necessarily mean it's not there, right? And this is kind of like the caveat that we always give a caveat to everything that we find. And the purpose of that is to get people to think about this themselves. But you also, by doing that, you also get to see like their career steps and how have they got to where they are today. And all these points, I think for me, are pretty important to understand who you're dealing with.
Sure.
And that's the team. Do you have any questions on the team or anything like that?
I think that's a really good way to look at it. I actually love that you're looking back even at their college and their credentials and all that, because I mean, even people who are very skilled and clearly know what they're doing, I think we've seen in the space that there's very high profile examples of people lying about their credentials to try to gain clout. And I mean, in my opinion, they didn't need to do that to like have the clout, because clearly I mean, the one that I'm thinking of is Cardano with
Charles Hoskinson.
Yeah, Charles Hoskins, because his whole persona is, I mean, I think that he's actually probably one of the smarter people in the space, but there's clear evidence of just a lack of ethicality and some lies there that just, if he just said the truth, or at least it didn't smell quite so bad there, then I'd be on board with the guy. But even though the output that I can see from him and the projects he's been on, I don't look at Cardano as a serious project personally because of that. Just because he's so high profile for that particular project, and I don't trust him as an individual. So that's those kinds of things with the team give me pause.
Yeah, exactly. And the next thing is we're looking at the repository. Now, we never really used to look at this, but I feel this is important because you need to be able to distinguish if that team also is showing evidence of their skills with development as well. And as we know in this space, projects can easily be cloned. It's called forking. You might have heard that before, but that kind of, it's okay to fork because some great work that's already happened, you know, you want to take it and make it a little bit better, right? Sure. We recently looked at a project, I won't give any names, but we recently looked at a blockchain, which was a complete fork of Phantom blockchain, which I actually like that blockchain. I think it's pretty good from a technology perspective. But the repository was showing 0. So right here, you can see development history, number of commits, how much testing they've got, lots of languages in there. And you can see all that from the public GitHub, right? And you can see 65 repositories. You can see lots of different coding languages. And then, you know, you can go into this detail and see just how active developers are and things like that. And one thing about Coinos is I was blown away with how much work has been done with less, is it 5 people or something like that? I can't remember.
5 people, 3 of which are developers. Yeah.
So I was really impressed with that. And but that's really important to understand. Can the team deliver on what they're going to say that, or what they have said they're going to deliver on? Is that evidenced by code and commits and checks and testing on the repository? And the team, do they have the, you know, the work history, which we've already spoken about? So we look at the repositories, we're looking at the teams, we look at the coin a little bit, you know, in terms of some of the tokenomic. Well, yeah, we do cover tokenomics, but, you know, this is really just sort of passing comments. We've linked to CoinGecko, but nothing major really. Then we start looking at some of the features, but again, I think that the likes of YouTubers do a great job here. They can give great overviews. They can give some great inputs in terms of features. So we don't really put too much effort into that. But what we do look at is our score report. And you can see this on the example on the website. But we've got very clear questions on the left-hand side. Top one is this a registered business? Okay. 5 equals yes, no equals 1, right? And I find that obviously in DeFi, you find a lot of projects that are not businesses, that have anonymous team members or whatever. And I'm thinking about accountability here. It's probably the, you know, one of the main points here. Is this a registered business? Do they have accountability in the jurisdiction that they're in? Are they registered? And actually, for Coinos Group, I actually couldn't find any information. So you actually lost some points there, and maybe we can improve that. But I'm just saying.
Yeah. And that's not the point of this, but for that one, they were founded as I think it was Open Orchard, so they might have a DBA for that. But we could get to that information if you want.
Anyway, we had to dock some points somewhere, so bear with me on
that's fine.
So because we're looking at a project, a blockchain in particular for for Coinos, these questions like is the blockchain a proxy contract? It's not applicable, right? So we we missed some of these, but I just want to go through some of these questions, especially for like EVM blockchains. Proxy contracts are great for flexibility. They're also really bad from an attack vector perspective. So you really need to weigh that up as to whether you want to take a sort of a bet on that. A verified contract on EVM territory is kind of like, if it's verified, it's human readable in a way. If you're pretty good at reading contracts. If it's not verified, it's basically machine code, which is 1 zeros and a few letters, and it just doesn't make sense. Okay, then with languages like Solidity, in fact, Solidity is probably one of the worst languages that you can code in, because it doesn't really have, like, it only does exactly what it asks you, that you ask it to do. It's not really got any built-in safety features there. Whereas compare it to like the Solana language, they automatically have protection against underflow and overflow attacks. So for Solidity contracts, we're asking this, and the reason why we ask whether it has safe math or not is because they are possible attack vectors. That's how contracts have been exploited, right? So if it has safe math.sol in there as a contract, or the Solidity version is greater than 0.8, great, we can tick it off and we can give it 5 points for that. Okay, now these are probably more sort of I would say that the fixed supply one, it initially was aimed at around contracts, but it is applicable here as well, right, in terms of Coinos, because you have the 2% hard-coded inflation, right? So in this is a very simple question. Is it a fixed supply, yes or no?
Right.
5 or 1 is the outcome. And the reason why we have that is inflation over time obviously dilutes the market price depending on the amount of underlying assets that's associated with it, and a few different variables that go into that. This is really important from a DeFi perspective, because if you've got a project which is, and I've seen them, 100,000% APY, that means that the supply is not fixed, and so there's a significant risk of that price dropping rapidly.
Right.
We're asking questions specifically in the contract now. So does it have the ability to stop trading? So can the owners go into that contract and limit everybody from being able to buy, sell, or what? And we have seen this from time to time. And I mean, I guess from a malicious perspective, right, it just means that people can't sell and it becomes a honeypot, right? But I guess from an owner's perspective, let's say a wallet gets compromised that controls a contract. They might need to halt the trading, assuming that they've got different wallets accountable for different contracts, and they might need to transfer something over. So I get that there's maybe a requirement for it, but you don't really see this one all that often. And then things like taxes, and again, it's obviously not applicable for Coinos, but buys, sells, claim taxes, these taxes, first thing we're checking is how much are they? How much is the buy tax? How much is the sell tax? What percentage is the claim tax? But then we're also checking the code to see, well, what's the maximum of that? Because if the maximum tax for selling is 100%, it's a honeypot.
Right.
If you buy a bunch of tokens and that buy tax is 100%, it's a honeypot, basically. You just send money to somebody else. Right. So we do look at that more so in EVM smart contracts. And I would say, just from a specialist perspective, when we're talking about these contracts, we are more specialized at looking at EVM compatible smart contracts. Then we are looking, and one of the things that I really try to do is look at the whole breadth of the project. So for the developers and the team members, where did their money come in? Did it come from Tornado Cash, or did it come from Binance or Coinbase? And you can see that on the blockchain. So I think if it comes from Tornado Cash, yes, it might just mean that the people want privacy. Okay. Sure. But at the same time, we also know what happens on Tornado Cash, where, bad actors can come, they can try and protect their anonymity, but sometimes that doesn't always help them either. So I'm just conscious of time as well. I will have to stop on the hour, but let me go through some of these other ones as well, and then we can maybe summarize some of this. But we're looking at things like, who owns the contract? Is it renounced? Is it managed by a multi-sig wallet? Does a dev have control over that contract still after launch? Is that the right thing? Is it the wrong thing? And I think this one is interesting because it opens up a bit of a debate. Being fully decentralized is only good if you've been able to test it in all conditions. Like, you've gone through a full bear market, like a really bad bear market, and the contract still works and it still does what it says it's going to do. Then I think you can renounce it. But if you're in a market that's all over the place, it's really hard to understand if your product, which is just code, by the way, is that going to react in the way that you expected it to react in the market conditions that you're in. So that's why we ask them. Then we go into like liquidity. We're looking about at how what's the word I'm after? How spread out is the risk? So if they only got one liquidity pool, that might again be okay. Maybe it's got a lock in place. Or we've recently looked at MIM, which is a stable coin on Phantom and Avalanche. That has like 100 LP pools, so the risk is really spread out, and to be able to drain all of them at once is going to be, I would say, nearly impossible. But
yeah,
the risk is really well sort of spread out. We're looking at all of the team members' wallets, right, where we've got them, and we're looking if the devs, the owners are doxed. Can we find any more social history besides LinkedIn? We spoke about the team further up. Then, this question, I think initially we didn't have it in there, but is this project a Ponzi by this definition, right?
Yeah.
And you can have yes, you can have no, you can have somewhere in between. But I think this is really important for people to know, because some people just don't know. Then we're looking at things like socials, and do projects have real organic growth for the project as well? Or is it a sudden influx of robots that go on to Twitter and whatnot, YouTube, whatever, Discord? I've literally seen projects where I went into a Discord and then 3 minutes later, 300 people joined, all with the name, I don't know, 012345.
Yeah.
So I've seen it, right? And I just think all of these things, what we're really trying to do here is look at a whole project from start to finish with all of the tools that we've got at our disposal, and provide really objective feedback about what they do and what they don't have. And I guess in terms of tools, real quick, there's a whole bunch of them out there. You can just reach out and ask, but there's a whole bunch of tools out there that can make you or anybody even better at looking at the under the hood of a project to make better decisions.
Very cool. Yeah, this is great analysis. I hope the people listening take the time to jump on YouTube just to look at that. It was basically a PDF of your analysis for Koinos, and then the one that's on your homepage. I think so. As far as tools go, if anybody's looking to learn more about how to get into doing this sort of analysis yourself, I'd recommend joining the Analysis on Chain Discord and ask questions. And the best way to learn is just be a sponge. Get out there where this analysis is happening. So for somebody who has never done this before, and they've just relied on YouTube and been rugged a few times and all that, what's really the best way to start finding these issues? Is it just to lean on a community like Analysis on Chain, or like how can they be safe on their own?
It depends, I guess, because you get people who are more technically minded. You get people who can think through things fairly logically. Some people will look at a blockchain explorer and just go, what on earth is this, right? So there's lots of videos out there on YouTube about some of these resources that are available. I really recommend, first thing to do is start looking at some of these blockchain explorers, right? And just get used to how it's laid out.
Right.
And by clicking on where does that take you, and what's it showing you? So that's where I started, is just say, well, what's this? If I click this, what's this showing me? Oh, if I click this button that says holders, what does that show me? And then you get a list of the top 100 holders, right? And it's all important information. But I would start at Blockchain Explorer as being the very basic place to start.
Very cool. And then for your investigation, you're doing all this analysis, just looking at tools that are available. Do you do any like data collection into your own databases with algorithm blah 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 whatever type of data analytics, or is this all just what you can find on publicly available tools?
Right now, publicly available tools. We've recently sign a contract with chain abuse. So on the investigation side of things, we input all of our data into chain abuse, which is a great resource. Recommend go and check that out, actually, chainabuse.com. You can, people, all sorts of investigators and people have been rug pulled. They're all, well, not all, but a lot of people report incidents there. So that means that you can get contracts flagged on blockchain explorers, you can get wallets flagged, and they notify lots of people as well. So that's kind of like on the investigation side, that's kind of like the database I use, really.
Very cool. Well, Jason, really appreciate your time today. I know we're running out here, but for anybody who's listening, where can they find you and join this great community you have going?
I'd recommend the website or Twitter. So the website is analysisonchain.co.uk. Analysis on chain is all one word, no spaces, no underscores. Or on Twitter, you can find us at @analysisonchain, all one word again. So they're the best place. You've got link trees in both of them, and you'll find all sorts of information about memberships, about the Discord. But come in, we're really friendly. I do, pro bono stuff all the time as well, where time permits. So if anyone's got any concerns, needs any help, I'm more than happy to help.
Fantastic. Well, again, really appreciate this. This was really cool looking into your process and seeing the output of your analysis.
Cool. Just one final thing.
Yeah.
This is not perfect. We're still learning every day, right?
Absolutely.
And we're now diversifying to be more specific when we're looking at a blockchain, for example. So it's not the finished article, but it's better than nothing, in my opinion. So
absolutely. All right. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in, and I hope this was as helpful for you as it was for me. Join me next week for the Coin Press podcast. Bye for now.